You wouldn't know it. You got a beard.
I know. Well, yeah, I had to grow this out, and then it's like, oh, okay, you can actually have a video podcast. It's okay. So you shave this off, man. I look 20 years younger.
But they're like, it's not gonna be HD. So we'll see. When the beard gets long enough, we'll give you 4K.
Yep, exactly. Once we get 4K, you'll see literally every strand. It's gonna be beautiful. So tell us a little bit. I mean, I know the answer, but nobody else does, at least that's possibly listening. Why the hell did you name your company Pancake Boy Productions?
Well, there are two answers to it, and one informs the other. So as a high schooler, grew up around here, and at the time, the only all-night place that was open for anybody who was under 21 was an all-night diner, The Clock. Clock Fine Food. Over on the east side of town. And so everybody of a certain age would go there and hang out. And I'm a man of John. When I make up my mind, when I like something, I stick with it.
Sure.
And so I've always loved pancakes growing up. And so going in there, I would always order pancakes, and the staff got so used to this, when I walked in, they would say, "Oh, look, Pancake Boy is here." And the host would yell that back to the cook. And then without having to order, a stack of cakes would come out, which was a great sort of parlor trick to impress. And I say that, let's say that, in impress anybody that I happen to be with who didn't know about who I was. So the name just sort of stuck with me for a lot of years. But so that's how I got the nickname. But the reason I named my business that, when I formed the LLC back in 2006, and I named my business that because of exactly the tee up that you made. Because you're like, what in the heck? What is this? It's something that sticks with you. And it makes you go, well, there's got to be a story behind that, versus if I just called it like Anderson's Video Business. Like, okay, like you know exactly what I do, but the conversation's over. So I have enjoyed, from bank tellers to, people I meet at networking events to anything, getting to tell them the story. And it's a nice little icebreaker too, because then, you're laughing, you're going back and forth about this and that. And, I have found it helps to, be memorable, good or bad.
Right.
Either I could be famous or infamous at the end of my life. I don't know which one, but I guess we'll see.
One of them you're going to be, at least. So you'll be known as the Pancake Boy.
I'll be known as the Pancake Boy. If the words "wanted," if you see this man call above it, I hope not. But we'll see how it ends up.
So you mentioned you started your business back in 2006. So that puts it pretty young when you started this business. What was the purpose and how did it evolve? Did you start off full time with it, or tell us about that journey?
So I have always been super interested in video and making things ever since my family first got borrowed a video camera for a weekend when I was in elementary school. And it was to be able to see something that I made on this box that I would watch. I mean, the disconnect between like the stuff that I was normally watching, everybody's watching, like it didn't matter to me that I was the only one seeing it. The fact that it was inside the same box, I was like, this is blowing my mind. And I just became obsessed with video. And so all through middle school, and I was playing around and learning how to do things. And I was the only actor in all of my movies, with a occasional assist from my parents. But got into high school and was everybody's favorite project partner because we could make a video. So I was making projects for classes I wasn't even in. And I was like, this is great. I got willing participants who want to do something, and they're like, this is great. This schmuck, this fool is going to help me get an A. And I went, okay, perfect. But it was going into my senior year of college where I was like, okay, I really want to do this. I got my eye on graduation, and I think it's time to formalize it. And that's when I went, well, of course I'm going to call it Pancake Boy.
Yeah.
And so there it was. I think I was working on a project for a nonprofit at the time, and it was my first thing. And I was so excited. I was like, well, I got to have a company. So I still got the paperwork. My dad called his lawyer and had him, file the fee and all of that. And I proudly hold on to that paperwork. So
I love it. Yeah. And for those of you guys who don't know, video editing is tough. It's not easy.
It's not for the faint of heart.
No, I mean, the hours that it can spend to edit 10 minutes of video is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I've never been great at that. I do little things here and there. Though I do remember years ago, actually, I created a video when I was a kid too.
Oh yeah?
For youth. Well, it wasn't for youth group. It was, or maybe it was. I don't know. I think it was for a class in high school or junior high. But I used a biblical a biblical story.
Oh yeah?
But I did it with Star Wars Legos, and so I did this Star Wars parody or parallel of Jesus in the wilderness.
Nice.
And I had a friend who helped me edit it. And I mean, even back then, like, it was probably harder back then to edit than it is today with all the tools that we have now.
One of the hardest things I did, I remember in high school, I did, another friend of mine, who I made a lot of movies with then, and he ended up going to film school too. We conned one of our teachers into letting us do an independent film study. And one of the projects we did was a stop motion Lego film. It was called ARG, and very basic story, but it took like 3 weeks to make that 5-minute movie, between figuring out how to, I was like, there's no way I will ever do stop motion animation. That is not in the cards for me. So it was nice to find out what I didn't want to do. But I still, every Talk Like a Pirate Day, I love to bring that out again. So
I love it. It makes me think of Parks and Rec. If you've ever watched that.
Of course I have.
When Ben's having his mental breakdown.
Oh, yes.
He's like, look at my stop motion. He's been working on it for, I don't even know how long he said. And he had like literally 5 seconds.
Yeah. I love that because the beat after that is Ben, he shows it to his friend, and then he goes, wait, I thought there was more. There has to be more. And I was like, I've never related to a TV character more than that moment of going, you spent all this time on that? That's okay.
Yep.
Good for you, buddy.
So when you started this back in 2006, I mean, did you jump right into it full time, or what were you doing? How were you getting clients? How were you breaking that up?
So there are two origin stories for the old PBP. Two starting points, really. It's the 2006 version and the 2020 version. But we'll start with the first one being, I just was getting ready to get out of college, and I had previously had an internship that summer at a radio station here in town for the Midwestern Broadcasting Group, which, spoiler alert, I ended up working for the next 15 years. So I did not do full time for that. But what I did do is a lot of small things on the side and piece together. But, I didn't know enough to know what I needed to know. And so it's sort of, I don't want to say languished, but, I did the occasional project here and there. I needed to pay the bills for all the equipment I had bought. Sure. So I was like, as long as I'm breaking even on that, on my monthly payment, I am a success. So did it as a side hustle for a while. And then at the same time, I also, with my sister, bought a business I'd been working at for a couple years, a disc jockey business in town, okay. Mr. Music DJs. And so ran that then still running that today, but that became the main side hustle. And there was Pancake Boy in the background. And then as Bo Burnham says about the pandemic, and then the funniest thing happened in March of 2020. And so with events drying up, we sort of looked at it and went, okay, what am I going to do with all that extra time?
Sure.
I can't possibly relax. My wife jokes that my favorite hobby is work.
Yeah, I can relate.
Of course. But also just going, okay, so what do I do with this? So re-enter Pancake Boy version 2.0. And it's just sort of took off since.
So 2020, you're coming into really what a lot of people consider to be a catalyst, usually for a negative spot in their life.
Yeah.
You took it and you said, hey, this is going to be my opportunity to shine and move into a different direction, in a way.
Let's pretend that was my first response.
Sure.
We can edit this, right? Let's do another take. Okay, so that was my first, and I would be, boy, what a glorious opportunity. I'm very excited. Eventually, I did come around to that, and I guess one thing that I need to say is that video crept back into my life accidentally, because a couple years prior, I had sold my camera. I was not really doing much, and I started to make some videos on my phone for my wife, who had a talk show at the time at the same company that I was working for, a radio company. And I was like, you got all these segments. Let's do some stuff. And I just on a whim one day, we were going to brunch and highlighted the place that we went, Sugar to Salt. Great brunch spot in town, if anybody's interested. But put it together, and I was like, A, that was insanely fun. And B, I was like, this isn't that bad.
Yeah.
So from that, sort of started to rebuild my re-entrance into the video world and into the content world. And so when 2020 happened, it went, hey, what if just leaned into this thing that we're already doing just a little bit more? And instead of just doing it for my wife's brand,
yeah,
what if we get some other clients too?
Sure. So you created that. Now, are you doing this full time now? Or?
I am doing it full time. This is my January 1 was my first day of complete self-employment.
So what was that like? I mean, what were your feelings as you kind of decided to take this step? I mean, obviously it's still pretty recent for you. You're talking only 9 months. What was that like? What were the feelings you went through? How did you come to that conclusion? What was the conversation with the missus about?
Well, she was very supportive, and she is my partner in this whole business. I'm a co-owner, and she has her own other full-time job. Now she's moved on to a different career at the Children's Advocacy Center, but she's still very involved in a lot of the strategy and planning, and she is much faster with ideas than I am. I think I'm very fast with figuring out how to execute an idea creatively.
Okay.
But I got to work a little bit harder at the copywriting. Okay. And I think, which is funny because I was also a copywriter for 15 years, but she just comes up with stuff insane stuff immediately. So it's wonderful to have a partner like that. So that's all to say. She was very supportive, and she also knew that I needed to. I don't play well on teams, and it's really hard for me to. This is not a great thing, but I put a lot of my self-identity into my work and what I do. And if I don't feel like I can steer the ship in a way like, I need that. So it's being an entrepreneur and being able to have the good ship Pancake is great, because it allows me to get out and I'm living and dying by my own sword. And, whether or not I succeed or fail in a day, I have never once regretted what I did. So it just sort of, how did it happen? It just sort of came up naturally. So that year and a half then, where we were sort of building things, it was a perfect bridge, because here I was, I already had a full-time job. I'm doing this on the side. So then I can afford to start. I don't need that money.
Right.
So I'm able to buy some more equipment that I need. and just sort of keep an eye on it. And it got to a point where I was like, I can't ignore that. I think it would be financially better for our family. I think I need to leave my full-time job. And that's the best moment that you can have for being like, there are risks and there are foolish risks. And as long as you got a lily pad, leap and the net will appear. Yes. But maybe before you leap, just survey, figure out which direction you want to jump in, because there might be something out there already. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love that. And I hope you guys are listening to this. I mean, you're talking about taking an opportunity like COVID to really start to push into something new, whether you knew it at the time or not. You know, I mean, I can give you all the credit in the world. Obviously, hindsight's 2020.
Well, please, if this podcast can just turn into an admiration society, and that's fine by me.
Well, it really is. I mean, anytime that you look at business owners and entrepreneurs, they find ways to take situations that others run away from or are scared of, or want to just kind of hunker down and go in their shell. Yeah. And they use those as opportunities to grow and move forward and find solutions and create opportunities. So you really took advantage of that in a lot of ways. Even if you didn't necessarily go at it with that intention at the start, that's still what it turned into. And now it's a full-time gig for you. And we've talked before about the importance of having that support system, whether it's a partner, as it is in Jordan's case, who happens to be both life partner and business partner, or even just friends or mentors around you that can help you to really go out there and have a little more confidence, give you a little bit of advice on where to go and what to do, and then getting around the right people who can also help you in areas that maybe you're not so strong at. Like Jordan mentioned, his wife is really good at coming up with the creative ideas. Getting around those people and having those people partner up with is so huge. So I think that's absolutely fantastic.
I think there is such a myth, and I think when you had Bill Marsh in the tub, he was talking about something similar about how the myth of the well-rounded person, and just this notion of like, stop trying to sand off your edges and become this milquetoast version of like, I can do everything average. Like, just double and triple down into what you're great at, and then find other people. I mean, yeah, in the beginning, yeah, I'm going through QuickBooks and trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing, usually badly. And then eventually I go, hey, can I hire you to, keep an eye on my books? Like, it's just little things like that where you go, the minute you can afford to do that, it just, and because also it's not just about the actual time that you're doing something, it's about the real estate that it takes up in your head. So you're driving around in times when, for example, you could be thinking about new ways to work on your business. You're just like, oh, I got to worry about this and this and this and all these things that I know I'm not great at. And so to take that off of your plate, I mean, that's just, I know being an entrepreneur is, for me, just constantly trying to find ways to outsmart myself. And occasionally I succeed, but just figuring out ways to be like, all right, so now I won't be thinking about that. Great. That's off my plate. Good.
Exactly. And that's one of those things that's come up a lot on this podcast, is that idea of, as Bill Marsh put it and Jordan reiterated, the myth of the well-rounded person. I think Jimmy also mentioned when he was in the tub that same idea that you mentioned with, as soon as you're able to afford it, move some of that stuff off your plate. And you're absolutely right. The real estate that it takes up in your mind, it pulls away from your ability to do the things that actually give you fuel, that actually bring you life. And part of being a business owner, entrepreneur, is realizing that you don't have to do everything all the time.
No.
Like you want to get to a point where you're able to push some of that stuff off and focus on the areas that bring you passion, and you're able to create other jobs for other people out of that as well.
Absolutely. And you don't need to, because also, like, what fun is the joy of the journey of entrepreneurship if you're just like, ugh, and I got to do all these other things I don't like. So I think it's great.
Well, I love it too. As I was reading through The Vision Driven Leader, which is a great book by Michael Hyatt, and one that was actually recommended to me a while ago by Bill Marsh. And I was reading through this, and for my own business, it was like an aha moment for me. He said, if your vision doesn't include other people, it's not big enough. And I went, oh, shoot. Like, I have a vision for vision consulting and what I want to do with that. But my vision really revolved around me.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I was helping clients. I was doing things with that. But the vision for the company was me. And I went, shoot, okay, how would it look if I brought in other people? What would that look like? What were some areas that, one, I could assist my customers with, and two, would be something that I could bring somebody else on with?
Yeah.
And it allows you to expand your vision beyond that. So that's been super helpful for me. And I kind of hear you saying this, a similar thing as well.
Well, absolutely. And it's interesting because now I'm, we're in the 9th month of full-time Pancake, and I'm definitely at this point where I'm just on the cusp of having to scale up. And I've had to really figure out what it is that I'm looking for in even some part-time hires and some, because I keep going, my wife makes fun of me because a phrase I keep saying is I'm building systems. Anytime I say something's going to be one thing and then it takes 3 times longer, I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm building systems. It's not going to happen. And eventually you get to a point where you're like, there's no amount of efficiency that can take away from the fact that that you can't find the 25th hour in the day.
Right.
Like at a certain point you go, okay, I'm tapped and this is not being effective. So I am at a interesting sort of crossroads trying to figure that out. But I've also been, this reminds me of a question you asked as we were communicating coming in here. I hope I'm not derailing where you wanted to go, but you asked what was one of your biggest business challenges. And I said reconciling Jordan the owner with Jordan the employee. The thing, in trying to build systems, what I've realized is Jordan the owner makes unreasonable requests and has unreasonable expectations of what Jordan the employee can execute. And it is really a tough thing because then also Jordan the owner wants that stuff, but then is not then building in the time. Like Jordan the owner will schedule 4 shoots, 4 days in a row and not say, hey, maybe let's make it so that you shoot one day, then you got a day or two to deal with all of that, and then mostly wrap up that project, then do another one, instead of just having all of this stuff dumped in your lap where it's not fresh. Because I'll tell you, you were talking about editing before. Going out and shooting, that's the easy part. Then you got to take all that stuff and make a story out of it. So, so figuring out ways to be kind to Jordan the employee has been, and also I'm about to develop a split personality thing. So if I just, but as an entrepreneur, you understand how that goes. You're you're wearing so many hats. You do feel like a different person at times.
It's very true. And I love how you put that too. I'm glad you brought it up because it was something we were going to discuss. The idea of boss Jordan respecting employee Jordan.
Yeah.
And when you said that, it really kind of clicked for me because I've seen that in my own life where, boss John, visionary John, push. And then employee John goes, holy crap, I'm dying here. Like I've got so much piled up. And especially with video editing, I think it goes to so many different facets. But I think about video editing, I know for me, like even being able to get these podcasts uploaded, pull clips from the podcast, it's so much easier when it's fresh in my mind. Yes. Because I'm already like, okay, yeah, I wanted to clip that one part there and I could do it. And then I'm focused on it instead of pushing it off. And then sometimes it just doesn't get done. And then what happens is what you're really fighting against when you do put it off for a little bit, when it's not fresh, then you go,
it's Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. The concept in there about the gumption trap, which I believe they're talking about getting into a really uncomfortable position, fixing something, and you just don't want to do, because you're like, I don't have the gumption to get in that. So you're just sort of avoiding it. And so the concept of fighting against a gumption trap, you're just like, I don't really remember. Oh, it seems like it's worse than it is, because then we're always like, I don't know, maybe there was something really hard in there to fix that I don't remember. So then you start rationalizing, well, I'll do it this afternoon, or then I ran out of time, and then you're really in a pickle, because Jordan, the boss, is going, well, what the heck, man? Yeah. I gave you a deadline. What's going on here?
And this goes back to that mental real estate, as far as like, now it's taking up a portion of your mental real estate, and you're all of a sudden sitting there going, shoot, I feel bad. I feel horrible. I didn't get this done. I don't want to do it. I should do this. I shouldn't, and it starts to drain you. So instead of doing that, there's a great concept that kind of comes to mind with this idea. The idea of procrastination is really what I'm referring to with this. But Eat the Frog. I don't know if you've ever heard.
Eat the Frog.
Yeah, great book. If you've ever had the opportunity to read it, if you haven't, check it out.
Oh yeah.
But he talks about the idea of if you had some weird disease where you had to eat a frog every day or you were gonna die. Like that's just how it went.
like you do.
Right, like all of us do.
Yeah.
I mean, I eat a frog every day, right? It's a normal thing. So if you had to do this or you would die, you have two choices. One is you wake up in the morning, you look at the frog, you start to think about how you're going to have to eat this thing, how slimy it's getting. This is going to get gross, by the way. How slimy it's going to be, the pop that's going to happen. It's mushy, it's gross, it's disgusting, it tastes horrible. All this stuff. And you start thinking about it, and you're like, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. And all day, you're sitting here just stressing.
Your whole day is ruined worrying about the frog.
Yeah. And you get nothing done. And then you get to the end of the night, and guess what? You still got to eat the frog, or you die. So you eat the frog. Or you get up, you see the frog there, and you go, okay, and you eat the frog. And I had my own kind of eat the frog recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was delicious. Where I was doing a challenge, and part of this challenge that I put this challenge off for months because of one little thing. Part of the challenge was a 5-minute cold shower every morning. And I went, no, I don't want to do this. So I put it off, and it was taking up real estate just in my mind, because I'm like, I really should do this. It'll help with my health. It'll help with my discipline. There's all these good things that'll come off of it. But I just don't want to do these 5-minute cold showers.
Yeah, because you're like, why would I want to be uncomfortable? And the first thing of my day? Nonsense.
Yep. And so I decided to do it. And that's what I did, was I ate the frog first.
Yeah.
I literally got out of bed and I jumped in the shower, took a hot shower first. But what I do is I take a hot shower, I'd suds up, and then I turn that water cold. And I spent 5 minutes in what started as pure agony. I actually came to really enjoy them. Like, now that I'm not doing the challenge, after 30
everyone
days
I've heard that does that says they come to enjoy it. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. But it took that initial eating that frog in the morning for me to actually learn that it's really not that bad.
And see, the funny thing about how I've heard Eat the Frog too is that there's a epilogue to it, is that if you have 2 frogs to eat the biggest one first.
That makes a lot of sense.
I think about that almost every time I make my to-do list. And then I often am the first version of the scenario you're talking about, where I'm not doing it. I'm putting it off. I'm trying to convince myself I'm doing, we're all just lying to ourselves a lot of the time, trying to fool, but we're not fooling ourselves. But when I'm at my best, I'm going, and then when you do it, the momentum that comes from it, the dopamine, the adrenaline rush, whatever's going on in my head, I feel so good that then I can use that to snowball into something else, and all of a sudden I'm like, I've had a really good day. Got a lot done.
This is really true, and I can relate this back to back in the day when I used to do morning B&Is, which, fun note, I'm actually going to probably start those back up here.
Good.
In a very short period of time.
Are you going to be joining our chapter?
More to come on
More
that.
to come.
I think
All
so,
right.
And for you guys that don't know what B&I is, I'll have Jordan talk about that and what it's done for his business. But I remember the days, I most recently did midday. And midday was cool, but midday didn't propel me anywhere in my day. Actually, and I love midday, it kind of became a hindrance, really, because
it's right in the
middle of the day. I can't do anything before, and then
you don't have a lot of time to do anything afterwards.
No, but the days when I started, I woke up at dark 30 and went to a B&I meeting at 7 in the morning, where I wasn't just showing up at 7. You'd show up at 6:45 or so, and you had to be on. Like, you were immediately jumping into a networking event where you had to be on, you had to be professional, you had to, like, focus. Gosh, those days, talk about propelling me into motivation and productivity.
There are often, because we meet on Wednesdays, and there are often Wednesday mornings when I wake up, even at the point I'm still driving there, I'm like, ugh, I don't want to do this. I have never left there going, boy, I still feel the same way. I've never left there not going, well, that was worth it.
Yeah.
Or saying that wasn't worth it. It's always worth it is what I'm saying. But it is remarkable what getting up and forcing yourself to do something that you may not want to. I've gotten very lax. I will say one thing about, as an entrepreneur, unless it's B&I or I got to shoot or something, I'm not setting an alarm anymore, which, we can all talk about that. I'm still getting up around 7:30 because I got a dog that sleeps right next to me, and
dogs are the best alarm
they're
clocks.
A great alarm clock. So I'm like, there's no worry about, sleeping till 12. But when my wife used to do morning radio, so, then we're getting up at 5. And I was like, okay, I'm up. I loved the excuse because I would get up, starting to get things. I would get so much done before 9 a.m. It was insane. I don't have the willpower to make myself get up at 5 right now. I mean, like, I'm not running Apple here. So, like, I'm not functioning at that high of a level, but the benefits to it. So I guess, again, outsmarting yourself, putting something on the calendar where, like, then you're like, oh, well, I got to do this. Yeah, because, I mean, listen, like, I'm just a dumb meat computer. Like, I am so easily, fooled. So just make it so I can't get out of something and I'll be so happy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That scheduling anything in the morning is great. Like, days, I'm the same way. I don't usually use an alarm.
Yeah.
I don't sleep all day either. But I kind of found, like, my getting up early in the morning most of the time, unless I had something scheduled, wasn't super productive anyways.
Yeah.
So, but the days that I do my best are days I have something scheduled in the morning.
Absolutely.
And whether it's a B&I, it's a coffee, it's breakfast with a referral partner or a mentor or just a friend. Like, having friends is so important as you grow your business, to have people you can get around and actually have fun with. It's a good thing. But there's so many things within that where it's like, give yourself a reason to go and start your day right.
Absolutely.
So with B&I, can you kind of talk a little bit? Not all of our people who listen know what that is. We've talked about it here before with some different folks that we've had, member of B&I. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is, what that experience has been like, and how it's helped or hindered you as you've kind of grown your business?
Absolutely. So I joined, I checked it out last year, had a friend invite me, and I joined early in 2022. It's been great for a variety of reasons. It's a referral network where essentially everybody who is there acts as your sales team. So every week you're given a 60-second presentation, and then you rotate a longer one, and it's all to instruct everybody, here's what I'm looking for a lead. So anything that you want people to just sort of put away in the back of their mind, so that then when they're out and they're talking to people and somebody mentions, like for me, they're like, I need, it would be great if I could get these videotaped or, whatever it happens to be. And they go, oh, actually, I got somebody for that specific reason. Or even it's a scenario where it isn't quite, I know what I need, but they just mention a problem they have. And then one of the other people has a solution. It's the same way that I have in the back of my head for the other members in there. And it's great because there are no competing industries, no competitors in there. So everybody's, nobody's trying to steal any clients. They're just working to help everybody else succeed. Yeah. Plus, it helps me. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, it helps to every week you have to talk in front of people. You have to do certain things that at the outset maybe feels repetitive, but very quickly you realize, oh, I get why I'm doing this. And you get so much more comfortable succinctly describing what it is that you're looking for. So you could do an elevator pitch at the drop of a hat to somebody.
Right. And I love how you said that too, like the idea of the sales team. You have a group of, 15, 20, 30, 40 people that become your sales team and are out there listening for what you're training them every week, training them on that. And then the greater part of it is a lot of folks, one of their biggest fears, it's funny, I can't remember what the study was, where they ranked, I think public speaking was higher than death.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
For what people are scared of in this world. So if you're scared of public speaking as an entrepreneur, the reality is you're going to have to talk to somebody about your business if you want to be successful. You can't build a business in a vacuum. No. You can't build a business where you're the only person that you ever interact with. So being able to talk to people is something that's important. And BNI is one of those places that can help build the skills to, as Jordan put it, succinctly communicate what it is that you're looking for and what it is that you do, and give a really nice elevator pitch to people and get you more comfortable with speaking in front of people.
Absolutely. And I found it's helpful because, every week I try to, with the quick little 60-second. So here's the kind of referrals I'm looking for this week. With that, a lot of times it has me looking back over the week of my business and going, what did I experience? Who did I work with client-wise? Was there anything that I want to do more of? Or you can do it in the reverse and just say, okay, what was lacking this week? And say, what aspect of my business do I know how to do really well that I'm not getting to do enough? And that allows me to, it forces me to think about things in a very different way, because when you have to get up in front of a crowd, it doesn't matter how many, I for a greater part of my professional life have basically talked for a living, and still getting up in front of a crowd, it doesn't make me nervous, but it, you get a little bit of edge. And I think I've heard people say that the moment you don't have an edge going on stage or getting in front of people, that's when you need to be worried, because that's when you don't care and you're not doing a good job. So it gives you that little bit of an edge, little bit of adrenaline. And so you're like, okay, it focuses you much better than the insane amount of coffee I drink every day.
Right, exactly. And that's so true. So obviously BNI has been a way that you started to build a client base. You started to kind of grow into having this be your sole source of income. What are some other ways that you've been able to go out and get clients that maybe would help a new entrepreneur as they're looking to start their journey?
Well, a couple things. One is just an extension of the BNI model, referral based, which is just doing good work for one client that then leads to good work for another client, and just continuing to provide as much value as possible so that people go, oh, you gotta, in my business, in any business, especially service-based, you always got to be careful not to price yourself out of the market. But you also have to be, walking that fine line between not undervaluing your services. you can do that in the way of just like, I'm working very hard and I'm not getting what I need. But you can also do it in people going, why is he so cheap? What's wrong? There's actually, I mean, there's been psychological tests about how that can affect people's buying habits. They go, it's too cheap. It can't be good. And I think a lot of people starting out are just so insecure or really want to build up a client base and be able to put some logos on their website. They go, I'll do it for next to nothing. And you go, okay, but your work is good. Don't do that. So referrals and that's been really important. And the other thing that I've done is just try to create things that do my own services for myself. I started this spring and summer doing a little show called Building Pancake Boy on my socials and on my website, which was just sort of a commentary behind the scenes of whatever I was shooting or whatever I was dealing with. And a lot of it I would incorporate because I've been hauling around these boxes of tapes from my entire life. You know, I got a bunch of high 8 tapes and these mini DV and all these old cameras. And finally I borrowed a few players and everything, importing all this footage. And I thought the goal was just, I want to digitize the finished products just so I don't have to have these VHS tapes.
Right.
I realized the actual treasure were all the stuff in between, the full master tapes, seeing the outtakes, seeing all this other, because I went, oh, this is seeing this behind this and stuff that I'd completely forgotten about. I think the favorite thing that I ever found was a self-interview I did when I was about 14 years old that goes on for, I kid you not, 45 minutes. I'm just sitting in my den. And also at one point, I'm like yelling at my parents because I'm like, I can hear you out there. You're very loud. Like, shut up, Jordan. Like, stop. But like, so I find all these treasures and they're fun for me, but I'm putting it together in a way that everything is trying to make a point about either being an entrepreneur, building a business, or just like a showcase of this is fun. And from that, I've gotten a number of clients who said, I saw that. Will you do that for me?
Yeah.
Will you come around, document what I'm doing as I'm building my business? And so I went, oh, this is a delight. This is truly the life that I want to live, because here I am doing my favorite stuff and getting to help other people in the process. So That's been, I think, trying to do, so many people get very uncreative when it comes to business, especially in the creative services. It's so interesting. They get so nervous that they're like, well, they won't take me seriously unless I do everything by the book. And they look very stilted and very like, this is business promotion. It needs to sound, I dealt with this so much in radio. The most frustrating clients were the ones who, they didn't want their ad to be as effective as it could be, to stand out. They were like, they have an idea in their head of what an ad sounds like. Yeah. And it's a very late 80s, like, sell, list the price, and you have no room for any interesting word choice. And I think that a lot of people can get really held up by feeling like, well, I'm not real at business. I'm not a real entrepreneur if I don't am this very buttoned down. It's just insecurity. There's no right or wrong way to do this.
That's so true. And there's so many little nuances in what you just said there. I mean, first of all, check out Jordan's Facebook and Instagram, because I've watched some of those videos that you put together. I love them. Like, I shared them.
Thank you.
They're hilarious. They're fantastic. And they tell a story. And this goes back to Donald Miller, Donald Miller, talking about story selling.
Yeah.
And the idea of having a story to kind of accompany what you're trying to talk about and what you're trying to communicate. And getting creative with this is something I agree. Like, I struggle with this myself, of this idea of what's a businessman look like? What's an entrepreneur look like? You know, am I doing things right? Like, a big reason why I don't have more tattoos is, well, I don't know, is that professional? Yeah, and yes, the culture is shifting and everything, but at the end of the day, who cares? Who cares, guys? Do you let people who like you come to you? It's all good. It all works out.
I mean, the person who was not going to do business with you if you had a certain tattoo, do you really want to do business with them?
Exactly.
Like, if that's something that would have meant a lot to you, like, I mean, I get when we're at a certain point where we're like, I need to make rent or whatever. Like, I get there's always an exception, but like, for the most part, no. Anybody who would be like, no, John's got that weird tattoo, therefore, well, his work's good, but I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And I think back to a client that I was working with as we were going through the core values, and we're going through all these different things. And as we kind of narrowed down on what their core values are, we came up with this phrase, we give a shit. and I remember they were like, yeah, I like that, but is that okay? Can we say that? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. Because one, I know the client.
Yeah.
Like, it really fits the client well.
Yeah.
They are a little edgy. They're not going to be the ones who are going to be, you know, not saying stuff like that on the job site anyways.
Yeah.
But they do great work and they care to a fault. And so, yes, it might turn somebody off, but at the end of the day, and we've talked about this on the podcast multiple times, not everybody is your customer, and you don't want everybody as your customer.
You don't want to try to appeal to everybody is to appeal to nobody. Mm-hmm. And there's a difference between width and depth with getting clients, and hearing something like that. And yeah, it's going to turn off some people, but for other people, it will immediately engender loyalty.
Right.
They'll make them laugh and make them go, those are my people.
Exactly.
And they will be loyal versus just like, you know, even if they were like, you could be like, we care. It's the same idea, but that doesn't stick with you. No. You say we give a shit as their motto? Yeah, I'm going to go, wait, what? Who is this? And a little bit of that, like talking about being, you know, is something or is it not professional? You know, I called my business Pancake Boy, so I mean, I sort of teed myself up a little to be like, I'm kind of irreverent, so, but I'll still do great work. So I'm sure there have been some very stuffy potential clients who are not interested in doing business with me for that, but I don't want to work. That would be a nightmare to work with them.
Right, exactly. And you've got to figure that out. And I mean, if you guys really need another case study on this, look at politicians.
Mm-hmm.
Politicians are divisive by their nature. Mm-hmm. Red versus blue, Republican versus Democrat. And this isn't to say that one is right or wrong or anything like that. It's just to say, like, they say some controversial things and they split people.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that's good, some of it's not so good. But at the end of the day, you're going to have haters and you're going to have people who absolutely love you. And it's okay. Grant Cardone talks about the fact that you're really not a real business owner. You don't have a real viable business until you have some haters. You have some people who don't like what you do.
Yeah.
It's okay. Not everybody's your customer. So.
Well, that means that you've actually stood for something, and it doesn't have to be a big principle even. It just has to be, I've taken a position on, I like this, or this is the kind of stuff that we do. And that excludes some other stuff. Right. And you kind of have to do that.
Yeah. And I saw this too when I was running the cleaning company that I ran for 4 years.
Yeah.
We took some positions in regards to some very controversial stuff that came up in the last couple of years. And we took a pretty hardline position on something. And the question that we had during some of our executive meetings were like, okay, but if we do this, what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to piss somebody off? And it's like, yeah, probably. But on the same token, we're going to have people who come to us because we make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing. So it's okay to take those stands as a business. I'm not saying go put the political sign out in the front yard. I mean, you can if you want to. It's totally up to you if that's your prerogative. But, find those things that as a business owner, you're going to stand up for your company, for your values, for your vision, for your employees and your team. It's the old adage, the customer's always right. It's complete bullshit, guys. It's not true.
Yeah.
Now, the customer should always feel like they've been heard and come away maybe feeling like, yeah, I feel right about this circumstance, but you're not going to be able to please everybody, and the customer is not always right.
I mean, listen, I can think of some people in the last 15 years of my professional career where I was like, no, that customer I don't want them to feel like they're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only because I'm going, I'm looking at the map of their business travels, and it says there be dragons there. Like, stay away from that, because this is not going to go well for you. And they are stubborn, and then they had to deal with and it's not that I'm so prescient, but I was just like, I've seen this a ton of times. Don't do this. You will fade into obscurity with this campaign.
Well, this is a good point too, that kind of goes into that, is in whatever business you have, realize and accept and be confident in the fact that you're the expert. I remember when I first got licensed as a financial advisor, young financial advisor working for a very prestigious firm, and kind of struggling with that confidence of like, man, I'm brand new at this. Like, are people really going to trust me?
Oh, and
with their
in
money?
that field, I can only imagine how, because there is certainly, we're talking about there's one way to be, and a lot of people expect a certain thing in finance.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, with the training that I had went through and the licensing that I had to get, and all of these different things, the backing behind me with the big firm, all of this stuff, the fact of the matter is, I was better positioned and knew more than 95% of the people on this planet. And you are the same way in your business. Jordan's the same way in his business. I'm the same way in my business that I'm in now. Don't be arrogant, don't be an asshole, but like, understand and have some confidence in the fact that if you started a business because you're good at something, because you have passion for something, you're probably learning constantly. You've probably done it a lot. And at the end of the day, you know more than 95% of the people. And
that's why you're doing it.
That are smarter than you or think they're smarter than you and want to do it themselves, cool. They're not your customers. There's still 95% of the people out there that can be your customer.
That's a big slice of pie left over for you.
So as you were kind of going through this, obviously, like, you had the business since 2006. You just went full time with it. What's kind of one thing that, as you look back over your business journey, hindsight 2020, right? What do you wish you could go back and tell young Jordan about his business if you were able to go back now and say, man, I wish I only knew this?
You're going to figure it out. And that applies to any sort of... So something I learned from the DJ business, this was back when we were full steam ahead, and I had 6 people working for me, and there were 4 at a time, and I was often doing a wedding at the time. And that was a bit stressful, but also I would get calls a lot while I'm trying to work, and somebody is going, oh my God, I can't. Something's not working. And a lot of times in transit, a button had gotten knocked on something, and so I had to learn how to troubleshoot over the phone and figure this stuff out. And I never didn't figure it out. And sort of what that taught me was take a breath, any calamity. But at the time I was like, this is the moment. This is where it all falls apart.
Yeah.
And in any shoot that I've done in the video world where I'm just, I think it's going okay, and then, oh no, I get the footage back and it's not I've done things even recently where like umpteen things I didn't think were going to happen, and I had to find ways around them. You're going to figure it out. You're going to find ways around it. Take a breath. What you're doing, you're not a doctor. Mm-hmm. You're going to figure it out. And more importantly, have faith in yourself to know that, have the courage of your convictions to know that you can handle whatever's coming your way, and not. So now I just look at like the recent thing I just alluded to. I was like, boy, what a learning experience that was, where so many things kept, some things that maybe I should have thought of, and then other things that, were completely out of my control that I learned. You learn to think ahead of yourself. You learn to go, okay, what are the things that could even potentially that aren't even in my orbit right now going wrong, and just go, you're going to get it. It's okay. Don't sweat it, and don't waste time being in your head, having that mental real estate taken up by worry and, fear or whatever, not to be so cliche, but, only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Well, the only thing I have to be anxious about are the things that have yet to happen. Yeah.
Well, this is so true too, because I've seen this over and over in my business, in this podcast. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think any of you guys who have watched some of the live streams, especially, know that there have been a lot of issues with figuring this out and getting to the point where it is now. And there's still growth that can happen here, but it's so funny to me looking at it going, okay, yeah. You figure it out, you work through it, you come up with solutions. That's a big reason why people who are entrepreneurs get paid so well, is because they're the ones who are willing to tackle the problems. They're the ones who are willing to take the time to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And they're going to tackle them head on. They're not going to accept, well, that sucks. I guess this isn't going to happen.
Yeah, I'm going home. I'm off the clock now.
Yeah. They stick around and they figure it out. And that's why they make good money. That's why they have that opportunity. That's why the majority of people are scared and nervous to step into entrepreneurship. So like Jordan said, you're going to figure it out eventually. I love that. I think that's so important. And whatever it is in your business, you're going to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. I love what Matt Bullock said when he was in the tub. Mm-hmm. It's okay to make mistakes. Let's just not make the same mistakes.
Exactly. And if you learn from it and grow from it, it's just, mistakes are great. Failure is great. Mm-hmm. You know why? Because it's a chance to learn something new.
And it's really easy. If you want proof of that, more proof, go talk to an athlete that you know. Any athlete will tell you they learned and grew a lot more from a loss than they ever did from a win.
Uh-huh.
So that's so cool. I appreciate you sharing that. Kind of last thing I want to touch on here.
Yeah.
We're all about, I believe leaders are readers. Mm-hmm. And as an entrepreneur, business owner, you need to be reading. Mm-hmm. And you need to read a lot, and you need to listen to what other business owners and entrepreneurs tell you to read, because it's probably going to help you out. So on that note, what's kind of one book that you would recommend to anyone who's looking at starting their own business?
So this is an outside pitch, but stay with me on this. So I read this free ebook back in 2007. It was by a man named Derek Sivers, and it's called How to Call Attention to Your Music. And you may be saying, if I'm not a musician, why would this be interesting? This is the guy that started this website, CD Baby, which began sort of on a lark just to sell his own band's music. And then he helped another friend out, and it became the largest independent distributor of music in the world at one time. And he put out this ebook of all these things that he had learned. Anybody, just search for How to Call Attention to Your Music.
We actually have it linked down in the description below as well.
Great. Because the thing is that, yes, there are some things that are A, dated, and B, that, do apply to musicians. But 80% to 90% is all about creative solutions to promotion. And it's funny because the lessons that I've learned from that every day I think about, and you are doing a great example of that with TubPreneurs, because one of the things that he talks about is you have to be very specific. Don't be general. Like, to paraphrase, it's like, don't be, hi, my name is Mary and my album is My Songs and here is the cover is a picture of my face. No, you want to be like, hello, I'm Chef Mary and these are 7 songs about souffles. Which one is going to be more interesting? And here you are, you could be like, this is John's business podcast. No, this is TubPreneurs. Which one is going to be more interesting and noteworthy and make you go, wait, it's a podcast in a hot tub?
Right.
Well, I got to check that out. So it is free and chocked full of very bite-sized things like that that have, I cannot push it enough, and I try to make anybody read it who will. So
I love it. That's so perfect. And I think it's a great way to kind of sum up so much of what we talked about today as well, with having that unique identity, going out there, being yourself, and really selling people on what makes you unique.
Yeah.
Don't be like everybody else.
No, that's so boring. Be
so
yourself.
Boring.
It's so much more fun to be yourself.
And if you got a great nickname that was given to you by a restaurant, turn it into your business.
Be that. We do stack up, so.
I love it. If you guys want to check out any of Jordan's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, website, it's all linked below. Highly recommend that you check them out. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here because I don't remember if you put anything in for this, but is there any offer that you want to give to the listeners of TubPreneurs if they're local here?
So here's what I'm going to do. One of the other lessons is from that ebook is a theory of bring people to the point where they want to start searching. Give them just enough where they want to come and find something. So to that I say, hey, if you've seen me here, reach out. Message me, and I got something for you.
I love it. So a little bit of mystery in it.
A little bit of mystery. I like to keep you guessing.
I like it. And of course, again, you guys, you can reach out to Jordan by clicking any of the links below. His Facebook's down there, his Instagram, his YouTube. I think those are the 3 main ones. And of course, his website is also down there. And you guys can check out some of the stuff that he did. Jordan, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
John, this has been fantastic. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we'll take some time to finish our cigars. But that's the end of the podcast. I hope you guys check us out on the next one. Thank you.
I've never done a peace sign in my life. Why did I do that?
I don't know. That's okay. I might leave that in.
I need a cool sign off.